Hey guys, and welcome back to another Pulse podcast. I hope you're well. My name is Daniel and I'm joined with Mike. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Good to see you.
Ready to answer this question?
I cannot wait.
You cannot wait. Before I ask the question, welcome if you're new to the Pulse podcast. This is a podcast where we basically take some of your Christian questions, we'll try to answer them, keeping them small, keeping them simple, keeping them bite-sized, and most importantly, keeping them Christian. Cool. So let's get straight into this question today. I'm going to read it out, yeah?
Shoot.
It says, this is someone, I'm going to paraphrase basically what they said, but I feel like I'm being called into ministry. What should I do? What are the pros and what are the cons of ministry? Let's start with that first. Like, someone's out there feeling like they're being called into ministry. What do you think their next step should be, basically?
Good. Okay, cool. So, the first thing I'd ask is what they mean by ministry. If you know me, I'm always like, what do you mean by that? I want to understand what you mean, because we've all been called into ministry. You know, to be a Christian is to be in ministry. Ministry means service. The term is diakonia. It means to serve other people. So in a certain sense, we're all being called to serve, right? To live a life of service to other people. That might look like serving a church setting. It might mean serving your friends. It might mean serving your family. Your life as a Christian is a life of service. And I don't say that flippantly. It is important to know, like, do you mean as a vocation, so in a full-time setting where like you're being paid to do it? Do you mean you just want to serve more and so you want to volunteer for a charity? You want to start, what do you mean by that is what I would ascertain. Now, I'm going to assume what you're saying and what they're saying is like sort of full-time ministry, getting paid, kind of being a preacher, being whatever. What you should do is obviously prayerfully, ask God and try and discern. And supposing you've done that, is I would start to speak to other people who are in ministry, and mentors you have, or leaders you have, pastors you have, to try and work out, do I actually have this gift? Because sometimes we think we have a gift, and oftentimes we don't. We're mistaken, and that's important, because you shouldn't just assume because you're willing to do something, it's what you're meant to do to make money, and it should be your vocation. If you want to be a pastor, you should have a pastoral gift. If you want to be, someone who's an evangelist, and that's what you do, you should have an evangelistic gift. Someone should be able to affirm that gift in you. You can't just say, I have it, I'm doing it. It's helpful to sit around people and try to ascertain really where that gifting is and the next steps, as it were. On pros and cons, it's hard on this one because, I can kind of speak forever, on sort of all the difficulties, but also all the amazing joys. I just made sort of 4 bullet points that I thought might be helpful to talk about. One is that you have to realize that there is no greater life than a life poured out. We did a whole conference on this. Our leadership conference, which we do every year. A life poured out is the best life, right? Because you get to, like a drink offering, pour yourself out to something meaningful. You kind of like the woman with the alabaster box, you get to kind of lavish Jesus's feet, and serving people it's unparalleled, the joy you get from seeing someone's life edified by virtue of your input. So that's beautiful. But when you're talking about ministry, you have to make sure you sit down with more experienced people, balanced people who are measured, who aren't extreme. Avoid extremists in every way, shape, or form. Speak to other people who are more experienced and try to learn from them. 2, check your ego and check your motivations. A lot of people want to be in ministry because they think it's the easiest way to attain social status. In today's generation, because of social media, you feel like you can get a bit of kudos from it. Maybe be more attractive to girls or guys, whatever it is, and you're seen more. And people go, I want to be seen, but you have to realize, whilst you're seen more by people, you're also seen more by enemies and God. Oh, okay, right? Yeah, okay. But I meant enemies in that now people know, okay, if I attack him, I can get 100 people. So it's just more effective. I get more bang for my buck if I attack him. And I think the devil knows that. If I strike the shepherd, what will happen? The sheep will be scattered. So let me attack him. Let me focus on him. So when you raise your head above the parapet, be aware of that. Like, you're going to be attacked. And there are lots of things you subject yourself to by virtue of being more visible. But you have to check your ego. Are you going into this because you have a genuine heart of service? You're happy not to be seen. You just want to serve. Or is it just another way for you to gain followers on Instagram, on Twitter, to sort of become like a person of repute and to kind of put up, oh, it's my birthday, guys, they're the gifts I want, everyone buys it. Like, is that the truth? And I would be very honest about that. If I mentor you or we spend time together, I don't play around with these questions. If someone says I'm going to be in leadership, I'll be like, you know, are you insecure and you think this is going to make you secure? I ask those questions because
There's a
lot of us don't want to ask ourselves.
Yeah.
And I wish someone asked me, you know, when I was sort of going into it. The third thing is that you must be careful not to get in Jesus' way. What I mean by that is, initially you're like, I want to be a servant. Before you know it, you start getting in the way a bit, hogging the limelight. You know, you're sort of almost now obstructing people's path to Jesus because they kind of have to go through you. It's what happens with a lot of cultish sort of churches or ministries where initially the person who founds it is like, I'm just here to serve. And before you know it, nothing happens unless it's through them. Right. Essentially, they are very much sort of, they control everything. It's not a community where they try to platform other people and say, you speak or you talk or you share your faith. It's them, me, I'm the one. It's all about me. Everything has to go through me. And actually, they start to get in the way and that people start to sort of go to them, watch them, listen to them more than they actually even pray or go to Jesus. And so rather than directing people, you're like, no, come to me, guys. I've got the answers. I've got the, you know, I'm not going to teach you how to follow God. I'm going to say, just come to me. And so that's something we have to be very aware of. It's very easy to do that. The next one is to ensure you have accountability. If you're going to be in ministry, you have to have people who know you, who aren't impressed by you, who aren't like, wow, you're so amazing, who know you as like you're Mike. You're a guy that's got foibles, that's got things he has to keep in check, or that will eat him alive. And so accountability is super key because oftentimes when you're in ministry and you're serving so much, you're moving so quickly that you can actually just always keep moving, no one knows anything about you. Yeah. Because you're just always something to do. So having accountability allows you to take a step out and be seen for who you are and not for like, oh, a prophet, whatever. No, you're just a guy that has issues and that has gifts. And lastly is you have to have a personal, thriving relationship with Jesus. Separate to your serving. You know, praying for somebody is not a relationship with Jesus. You're praying for them. You know, laying hands on somebody, that's nice for them. But what is your private one-to-one walk like with Jesus? Because once the ministry is done, once the serving is done, you know, it's going to be you and Jesus. And you have to be able to stand him. You have to be able to enjoy him. You have to be able to just read your Bible and let it end there. Everything can't be for the ministry. You can't read your Bible to preach. You can't pray so that you have power. It's like, no, you have to just learn how to enjoy these things in and of themselves, or you won't last very long. Because you'll have periods where you're hot and you have periods where you're not so hot. That's just human nature. And so those are some of the kind of advices I would give people. The cons are, it will distort your life and you can't have a normal life. You know, where you're just kind of going about your business. You know, you're seen more, all these different things I've said. But the pro is that there's no better life than a life of service. And God has called us out of the ordinary into the extraordinary. So all of us should be in ministry. At what stage and at what sort of impact level might be different. But you should be in ministry. You should serving your family, serving your brothers and sisters, serving in church. And if you've been called to serve a much larger audience, go for it. But everyone's been called to service on some level. That's
such a good angle to go at it at, because it's like what you're saying, very important, but so hard to miss in asking yourself if you don't really hear it. Like just like asking yourself, like, why do I actually want to do this?
Big time.
Because your answer will be, because I want to do it for God. But you miss all the other nuances that plays a big role when you actually go into it. And
you have to be honest with that. There is nothing wrong, by the way. If I'm sat with you and we're having a chat and I'm like, okay, you want to be in ministry, how do you want to do it? And you say, I want people to like me. I would respect you for saying that. Because now we can deal with that. But if you don't say it and it goes concealed, it will eat you up. And no one will know. And you'll be toxically addicted to the likes and the following and people liking your teaching, and when they don't like it, you have a personality crisis and identity. So you saying it doesn't disqualify you. It just means at least now we know what could go wrong. I remember one of the most powerful conversations I had with an old mentor of mine. And he was saying that when he meets young guys or girls who want to go into ministries, he says, okay, cool. So if there's a newspaper headline, you're on the front page of the Sun and you've been caught for something, what would it be? And he says when people don't know, he's like, you're not ready for ministry. Because it means you're not self-aware.
Yeah.
You don't know yourself. You feel like, oh, nothing, I just love Jesus. It's like, you're not ready for ministry.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know and you can't identify where the enemy might destroy you,
yeah, you really got to
how could I
down.
co-sign you going into war? If I'm like, where are our weaknesses as a general? You're like, I don't know. I would be like, someone get me a new general.
Yeah.
Because this is not going to work.
Yeah.
How can he be leading the army? He doesn't know where our weakness is.
Yeah.
How's he going to know where to cover? How's he going to know where to put the soldiers? Is he just good on vibes? And likewise, you're going into leadership or ministry and you don't know your weaknesses. You haven't made it known to somebody that, hey, I struggle in this area. This area is a soft spot for me. You're not ready. Quite frankly, and I've had that conversation with people sometimes when I've said, I've asked them the same question that was asked to me, like, okay, you're on a newspaper headline, what happened? Like, what's the story?
Damn.
And they're like, no, I don't know. I'm like, take some time, learn more about yourself before you subject yourself to that exposure that will destroy you if you're not made of tough stuff. You'll be destroyed.
That was really good. That was really, really good. So I just have one more question to end this with, right? So what's beautiful that's happening in a lot of Christian spaces, well, a lot of what I'm seeing is that a lot of young people are coming to God, right? And just, I guess, naturally, their way of living a life poured out looks like ministry in a like more pastoral sense, kind of like getting paid for it, working in the church, full-time ministry type of thing.
Yeah.
But the issue is that a lot of them are still very young, right? They lack life experiences, first of all. And second of all, just that Christian experience with God as well. But that should never hold them back from wanting to do such things. But would you advise young people who are wanting to go into ministry, let's say between the ages of 20 to 25, would you advise them to do it?
I think what you have to do if you're going to be wise is selectively expose yourself as you build the confidence and character. We often hear it said, oh, people get promoted because of their gift and when they don't have the character. And I see that said all the time. Like, we promote people because of their gifts and not their character. And I get the point. I think I was promoted way too early, if I'm honest with you, like if I'm being critical. However, I think what people really are trying to say is your level of exposure should match your character. And so there's nothing wrong with being 20 and serving in your local church and preaching at the youth church. Or preaching at a level where the exposure isn't so large, it's a manageable, sort of you're being trained. So for instance, in my church, we have 3 services. There's a service that not that many people attend, where it's a bit more informal. And so that's the service where they might use to train new speakers. So you go there, you might make a few mistakes and the pastor can come up and just sort of correct it. It's low stakes. Whereas there's the main service at 12:15 where there's lots of families and everyone's there. And with that's the one that's recorded. So we might, we might wait before someone's exposed to that sort of group.
Yeah.
So what we're doing there is we're managing the exposure. Right, we're guarding that person jealously and saying that we're going to slowly expose you to more and more as we feel like you're ready for it. What we won't do, though, is at 20, push you on TikTok in front of 100 million people because you're not ready for that. And quite, inevitably, what will happen is there'll be some sort of scandal, everything blows up, and it's a shame. And we've seen that movie many, many times. I've seen people online, claiming to have a different gospel, or, kind of claiming to be a different group. And fast forward 3 years, they're not Christians anymore. And then, again, I hate it that it's the case, but when I first saw it, one of the first things I mentioned to somebody is, my fear for these guys is they won't be Christians in 3 years. And they're like, oh, no, they're really passionate. I was like, listen, I got saved young. I've been involved in ministry for a while. I've seen passion. I have seen the most passionate people in the world that they're frothing at the mouth as they're speaking, and you're like, wow. And they're not Christians anymore. Because exposure too early will generally destroy you. And so trust in God's timing. Even if you're energetic and you have the desire to serve, turn it into local service, turn it into service offline, and just slowly expose yourself. Don't be too hungry to grow. Really, God protects us in time by delaying our growth. He protects us by saying, not yet, just not yet. Like, you're not made of tough stuff yet. Right now that you're a bit hollow. if someone pushes you, you're cave.
Fall, yeah.
You're not ready yet. And we have to trust God sometimes in that. And it's hard because we want to grow. Growth shows fruitfulness, and I need to get to 10K followers ASAP. And it's like, mate, trust in God's timing. Selectively expose yourself to more people over time, and just grow. Have a period of being a tutor, being tutored. Have a period of being an apprentice, and slowly grow. But don't just go, I'm gifted, I'm talented, let me reach as many people as possible, because you'll often shipwreck your faith in the process.
Yeah, that's really, really good. And I guess as final words for encouragement, because we do, like you said, it's sad. We do see a lot of people, when you meet them, they're so passionate about ministry, but then they go into it and then I guess they realize they misjudged how tough they are. Yeah. And they realize, and it's natural, like you weren't, it's not even like a bad thing today, but you just weren't that tough for the environment that you were exposed to.
Correct.
And they made a mistake, fell off the bandwagon. What would you say to someone who's feeling discouraged for their, going too early? But, they once had the passion and they just feel like, ministry, forget all of that stuff. Yeah. But what do you say to someone like that to, get back on it? Like, that passion was good, but just not now. Like,
well, you have to realize before you're a minister, you're a son.
Yeah.
Everyone's a son. Ladies as well. We're all sons. Just like we're all the bride of Christ. Yeah. It balances out. 100%. We're all sons. People are like, I'm a daughter. It's like, mate, I have to live with being the bride of Christ. Yeah. Like, do you know what I mean? Whereas your son. And so God, first, he wants to know you and wants you to enjoy him. Way before you're ever called out to be a speaker. It's like your son. And so you can always default back to that identity marker. Whether you fall, everyone hates you, you made a mistake, people are gossiping about you, people say terrible things, doesn't matter, you're a son. You can go back and say, oh, I'm accepted by God. Yeah. He loves me. And we change when we receive God's love. That's when we really change. When we sit down and go, even as messed up as I am, even with all the mistakes I've made, even with all the people I've hurt, God still loves me. Like, receiving that is what changes us. So if you're that person where you're like, I've messed up, man. I've messed up. I've gone out too early, whatever it is, just default back to being a son. Abide under the shadow of the Most High. Be protected, be safe. Know that he loves you and he couldn't love you more. His love is perfect as a way. Receive that, and in time, you may get the energy again to go back. But even if you don't go back out, if you live your life abiding there and just sharing with Jesus, with people, that's a good life.
Yeah,
that's a good life. You shared with people what he's done for you. That is a good enough life. You don't have to go and impress people. God doesn't love you more because you're ministering. We have this weird idea that it's when we're like ministering and he's like, I approve of you. It's like, nah, mate. That would make out his love workspaces. No, he perfectly loves us. Yeah. Whether we are the pastor or the usher, whether we're just encouraging a friend on FaceTime or we're in front of a crusade in Kenya, whatever you're doing, God perfectly loves you. And that's hard to receive, but it's the truth.
Yeah. Wow. That's beautiful. I've got nothing else to say. That was absolutely beautiful. And I hope it's encouraged you. Share it with someone, encourage a friend, share it with your family, and just share it with the people around you, people in your community. You can really encourage someone with a lot of things that we just said, because there's really essential things that some people are just not hearing. But with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in today's episode. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode. Peace.